Byline Times has released the fourth installment of its 3-year investigation into GB News presenter Dan Wootton, and the newest allegations are likely to have his old employer, The Sun, carefully checking its books. Dan Wootton paid porn stars with Sun's Depp money for covert catfish sex videos. So we've already covered allegations that Wootton used the pseudonyms Martin Branning and Maria Joseph to catfish, and in one case allegedly blackmail men into sending him explicit photos and videos. But the allegations in the new Byline report involve Wootton operating out in the open. So according to Byline, Wootton, quote, rented the Facebook profiles of at least 3 adult performers. Once he had access to the accounts, he would target gay men posing as the porn stars and trick them into meeting for sex. Unbeknownst to the men, their encounters with the porn actors would be covertly filmed, and one of the adult performers told Byline this. Dan used to pay us anywhere between £300 and £500 to use our Facebooks. I didn't know these people he was messaging. It was all males. He was messaging as me, basically. I know he was using the Facebook of 2 other adult entertainers. I was watching the messages on one of the adult entertainers' accounts to this other lad, but he was deleting them as they were firing out and coming back. He was deleting them as they were going along. Asked whether Wootton was destroying evidence as the conversations went along, the adult entertainer said, quote, yes, Dan was doing it. A second performer told Byline this. He paid me to use my Facebook account. I still had access to it as well, but I gave him my password. And then when I felt he'd had enough time, I changed my password. After a while, Dan would message me. Wootton would say, I've got a guy here. Are you interested in coming down and filming it? The first entertainer went on to allege this. So he was literally paying people to use their Facebooks and film people having sex. These people we used to meet, I don't know who they were. I think they were from Dan's circle, and the films were an attempt to get one up on them. I can't say for certain, but I think it was to get compromising material on people. That is my belief. Why else would you want someone filmed without their knowledge and be so adamant you want it filmed? The article goes into a specific case involving the 2 actors. In 2016, Wootton allegedly met the 2 porn stars outside the Sun's office in London Bridge. There he is said to have issued them with details of the target and gave them filming equipment and instructions. The first actor told Byline this. There were 2 cameras and an iPad we had to pick up from Dan from the Baby Shard. That's the nickname of the Sun's office in London. I was in the back of the car when Dan got into it. The guy we were messaging, the target, you could tell from the content of the messages, didn't want it filmed. But Dan's like, I don't care what he says, you get in there and get the film. Before you even go into the house, get the cameras on. I want the walk-in. The actor told Wootton, quote, you can't fucking do that, Dan. To which Wootton allegedly responded, quote, don't worry about him, he'll be fine. But the 2 porn actors agreed that they wouldn't film without the target's permission. The first actor goes on to say this about what happened when they met the target. We knocked on his door, introduced ourselves, and he was like, I don't believe you. 2 porn stars want to come down and film me? And I was like, yeah, it's what we do. Basically, it's for personal use. This is what me and my mate do. We go around fucking people for a laugh. The guy could tell something was amiss. He weren't buying the story. After about 10 to 15 minutes free play, so light sexual activity, I advised him that the camera was going to come out. And he was like, no, I don't want it filmed. I don't want it filmed. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of it then. We didn't get anything on film. So we took Dan's cameras back and he said, you boys head back to your home location and I'll sort your money out. The second actor described an occasion where a film was made, this time involving a third porn actor. The meeting took place in a hotel in East London, close to Wootton's then home. According to the actor, the target agreed to have the encounter filmed on the understanding that it was for the private use of consenting parties. He goes on to tell Byline this. We went to Dan's flat in London. He was asking us to film another chap and he wanted it secret. He wanted it filmed secretly. So we filmed that and gave it to Dan. Dan was happy with it and he paid us. I think it was £500 each. I can't remember if it was paid in cash or by bank transfer. The article also alleges that on at least one occasion, Wootton paid a porn actor using money from the Sun newspaper, where he worked at the time. On 10th of June 2016, Wootton sent an email from his work address, dan.wootton@thesun.co.uk, to the newspaper's editorial clerk, registering the porn star as a new payee on its contributor payment system. The email, which Byline Times has obtained, reads, "I need the second entertainer set up as a new payee, please. He needs to put down for $1,500 urgently on the Amber Heard splash from last week. Thanks, Dan." Analysis of the Sun's stories in the relevant timeframe suggests that the payment, which the entertainer confirms was not for information about Johnny Depp or Amber Heard, was in lieu of an article Wootton wrote about the Hollywood pair's private lives. Byline Times also spoke to a third man that Wootton, keep up with me here. Byline Times also spoke to a third man that Wootton allegedly paid to make covert recordings of targets. According to this man, he initially made secret films for Martin Branning, a pseudonym that Byline alleges was used by Wootton. Branning, he said, would pay him £250 a time. But in 2012, the man says Wootton approached him directly. This is what he told Byline. "It was on Sunday during the BAFTAs while Dan was still at the Sun. I got a message from Wootton himself. He asked me to secretly record me performing a specified sex act on a man who did not know he was being filmed at a hotel room at the Savoy for money. I was secretly recording, correct, but I didn't perform any sex acts. We just drank in the hotel room. What Wootton asked me to do didn't really happen, but he still asked me to video the man without his consent." That suite was paid for by the telecoms company Orange, which sponsored the BAFTAs. These allegations have been put to Wootton, as well as the allegations made in the previous 3 installments of this investigation, but Byline has received no response from him or his representatives. Wootton has denied any allegations of criminality. Wootton and his representatives have, according to Byline Times, failed to either confirm or deny that Wootton is connected to the name Martin Branning, and News UK, which owns The Sun, has not responded to Byline's questions. It has, however, appointed a legal firm to conduct an internal investigation into the allegations against Wootton. Wootton's current employers, the Mail Online and GB News, have also not responded to questions. But while Wootton's show is still being aired on GB News, his twice-weekly column in the Mail hasn't appeared since the Byline story broke.
Real serious, criminal allegations that are now being put towards Dan Wootton. But in terms of the kind of broader issue around the way in which our media functions, I think that it's really significant that now it's starting to show how interwoven these alleged incidents were with his work as a journalist, with his work for the Sun newspaper. Because when we're talking about the breaching of consent of innocent parties, when we're talking about the kind of nefarious use of payments in order to gain power and gain information, we're starting to see some similarities between these stories that are now being investigated by the Byline Times and the accepted and recognized practice that we know Dan Wootton and many other Sun journalists have engaged in as part of their entertainment coverage, and we've seen also the devastating impact that that has had upon some of its victims. And we've heard the testimonies of people like the singer and actress Lily Allen. When we think about the impact that Dan Wootton's journalistic career has had, this is someone who has really kind of abused the culture of Britain, as well as potentially abusing these unfortunate victims. When we are looking at this figure as Dan Wootton, I think we really are looking at someone who, I don't know, like, is there anyone in the British media who has got so far with so little talent and so little charisma, just with the ability to be able to kind of dig through the dirt and be able to leverage power and leverage information over people? I think that the practices that are being investigated in say a lot about what was the norm in the British media for far too long.
This story has filled a missing piece of the puzzle, because I've always been like, how did this guy go from a showbiz, like, celebrity gossip columnist to a political broadcaster that is, okay, not on one of the mainstream channels, but is frontlining a channel that unfortunately has a lot of financial backing and is becoming more prominent. And I'm like, is this how he got there? I mean, obviously this is all alleged, but it doesn't it says a lot about the kind of broader culture, about how a lot of these tabloids in particular, their entire model of journalism is about getting incriminating information on people, but it's never important incriminating information. It's not about, Centrica profits or whatever it is that we've been talking about throughout this show. It's always like just people's sex lives and irrelevant information to try and gain very petty and despotic forms of power over people. And I've always wondered how someone like a Dan Wootton can have the gall to comb through the personal lives of, whether it's Lily Allen, Meghan Markle, Caroline Flack, to comb through every single little thing that they do and like do fake outrage based on anything in and act as if anything in their personal lives is up for grabs to be scrutinized, criticized, when this is the skeleton in your closet. Like, it's wild to me, but it also goes to show that he really, in whatever world he is operating in, which we will never be privy to the exact ways that it operates, he feels certain in his position. And what I want to know is this the glue that's holding our journalistic and political class together? Because increasingly, I'm beginning to think it might be.